So do you guys know those films out there that are almost impossible to explain or share your thoughts without spoiling it? Well, Barbarian is one of those movies, so here we go. Hey guys, my name is Brandon, aka the BrandoCritic, and I want to say thank you so much for being here today. I really do appreciate it. And welcome to my Barbarian movie review. I'm here to give you my honest, no BS, non-spoiler review for you today and tell you if Barbarian is worth a watch. But let me know down in the comment section down below, have you guys seen Barbarian? What did you think? Was it scary? Was it not scary? Was it funny? Whatever your thoughts are, leave them down below. I love reading your comments. And stay tuned to the end for the secret passphrase that you can comment down below in the comments as well. So, we have Barbarian from director Zach Cregger, and you know him from such films as Miss March and The Civil War on Drugs. But I'll tell you this right now, after this movie, and if this movie is successful, and I think it will be, he's gonna be getting a lot more work in the director's chair. And it stars Georgina Campbell, Bill Skarsgård, and Justin Long. So with all that being said, is Barbarian worth a watch? I'm very happy to say this because the last two movies I reviewed were some of the worst movies I've ever seen. Barbarian is absolutely worth a watch, and I think it might be a little bit too early to say, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Barbarian is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. Yeah, it's that good. So like I said earlier, this movie is going to be hard to get into without spoiling it. So I apologize if this review is gonna seem a little bit vague. I'm not gonna get into plot details, but I do have some elements of the movie I want to talk about that make this movie really, really, really worth a watch. Number one is that it always keeps you on your toes. This movie is not predictable. And if someone tells you that they saw this movie and they said it was predictable, then they must have been making the movie because I had no idea where this movie was going. And I like that because let's be real, guys. Don't you hate it when you watch a movie and then within the first 5 minutes, you know exactly what's going to happen? You know which characters are going to fall in love with who's going to die, what the plot's going to be, what the message is going to be, where they're going to go, all that stuff. There are some movies where you can literally tell within the first 5 minutes. And in this movie, you think that you have it figured out. You're like, okay, I get the story, I get the villain, I get the hero, I get the message, I understand what's gonna happen here, and then it shifts on a dime. As soon as you think that you have this film figured out, new character, new location, new plot elements, and you're like, what in the world just happened? We just jumped into a completely different movie, and what's gonna happen now? And every time that happened, it happened a couple times, you just lean forward. I found myself leaning forward in my seat because I'm like, what in the world is happening? Where's this film going? And I was very, very intrigued. And even before the first big shift, I was still engaged in the story. I'm like, okay, well, I kind of understand this is a very simple premise. Girl knocks on the door of an Airbnb, there's a guy there, it's a horror movie, she finds some things in the basement, right? Like this is all in the trailer. So I'm like, okay, this is very standard horror movie stuff. I'm fine with the whole simple yet effective approach. This movie is not simple in terms of its plot direction. But even before the twists and turns came, I was already super intrigued because number two, the characters and the performances are fantastic in this movie. Georgina Campbell and Bill Skarsgård are fantastic. Of course, Bill Skarsgård being a horror legend nowadays with It. But Justin Long, I gotta give mad props to my guy, Justin Long. He was phenomenal in this movie. He plays kind of like that frat guy douchebag, and he has it down pat, and he was absolutely hilarious. I was laughing every single time that he was on screen with just the words that were coming out of his mouth, his delivery. It was phenomenal. Which gets me to my third point. This is a great balance between horror and comedy. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, okay, well, as soon as you get a horror comedy, it's not gonna be very scary, or it's not gonna be very funny, or you can kind of have one or the other. But in this movie, I thought they were actually pretty equal, and the huge contrast between the two, I think actually worked out in its favor. The comedy got funnier, and the horror elements got scarier. Now, discussing the comedy first, no lie, this was the loudest theater I've been in since Free Guy last year. And before you say, what about Spider-Man No Way Home? I saw it in a press screening. There was like 14 people in it, so we weren't like screaming and clapping. And even where I'm from in Vancouver, Canada, we don't normally like to jump and scream and yell in movies. It's just not our culture. But I digress. Completely different topic. But I gotta say though, that the comedy moments in this movie where you were supposed to laugh, oh my God, did they hit. I was cracking up in this theater, and everyone in the theater was having a great time, smiling, laughing at the comedy moments, and the jump scares. Oh boy, did some people throw up their popcorn in this movie as well. But just real quick though, the moments I was laughing at, when Justin Long dropped the F-bomb, man, that guy's a master at that craft, and I was on the floor, figuratively, not literally. But I would say that this movie is scary too, but it's not scary in terms of like scary monster, like, whoa, the devil's gonna come get you kind of scary. It's more uncomfortable. Now, this movie does have all those same horror elements, right? The dark hallways, there are some jump scares, they're the gross kind of scary monster slash entity type of thing. And of course, the authorities don't believe anything our main character is saying, and our main character is a scream queen, so to speak, right? She's a woman who knows how to scream in a horror movie. So we have all those standard elements that you'd find in a horror movie, but it's the visuals that work with this kind of storytelling. The direction, the cinematography, the placement of the actors, and the cinema space, aka you understand the layout of the cinema world. The production design, all that stuff tells the story extremely well. And it's a perfect example of show don't tell. This movie is a master at it because just simply showing a tape measure or a shelf full of movies or a quick cut to a washing machine can tell you loads about what's happening in the story. They're not just telling us, they're showing us, and I really appreciate that. Now, a little bit of a side tangent. I wanted to bring this up because I read an article recently and I couldn't help but link it to this film. Now, I have no idea if the filmmakers were trying to say anything about this topic, but the messages and the themes in this movie I felt tied in very, very closely to it. So this is just my own personal take, but I thought I would bring it in here, okay? So this is just pure speculation. But I read an article recently about the effects, the damaging effects of pornography, especially when young boys find it at the age of 11. Watching it constantly affects their brain and their moods and their growth from 11 to adulthood and sometimes for the rest of their lives. And how it can warp men's perception of love and sex and the female form, and how sex becomes this transactional experience as opposed to this loving, blissful, heavenly one. And how addiction to porn can really drive some people off the deep end and turn them into complete monsters. This film definitely fit the narrative of that article. I can't really go into it further than that because it will just simply give away the story, but you know, that's what I was thinking about during this movie, right? So again, I thought I would just bring it up because it might be a different way of looking at this movie that people might not have known. Read the article and then saw the movie, and I couldn't help but see the staggering amount of parallels. So yeah, that's it. But for a rating, 4 out of 5. I don't know if I could say that I love this movie because at the end, there were so many twists and turns that it almost became almost comical. But I feel like maybe with another viewing, maybe at around Halloween time, if I show some other people, it could get up to 5 out of 5. It could get there. But for right now, a bit conservative and give it a 4 out of 5. This is one of my favorite movies of the entire year. So I'm happy to say that, and I'm hoping that you guys go see it this weekend and love it as well. So thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end. I really do appreciate it. The phrase is, the live-action Pinocchio movie is terrible. If you put that in the comments, then I'll know that you made it this far. Thank you so much. So yeah, Barbarian's a really great one, and hope the next movie review is of another great movie. Stick around for that, hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys there. Take care.